Welcome to part 4 of this Football Manager 2018 experiment, where we're seeing if Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania can dominate world football. So far, they haven't managed to do so, although Lithuania have managed to win the World Cup. So we can say there's been some success to this experiment. With the Egyptian experiment, we didn't see Egypt win the World Cup, of course, but at least this time around we have seen one of the countries win the World Cup, so that is a fantastic achievement for Lithuania. We just haven't managed to collectively get these three nations to dominate world football, do well in European competitions. In today's part 4, we are going to holiday another 20 years into the future, another 5 World Cups. Hopefully we will see some improvement and see some success from these three countries. So I've holidayed until the end of the 2062 World Cup, and unfortunately none of the three Baltic nations managed to win this competition. Portugal beat Italy in the final. However, we have finally seen Lithuania qualify for another World Cup. The other two miss out once again, but it's great to see Lithuania make a bit of progress there. They did finish third in their group. Pretty unlucky not to go through with 4 points. They managed to beat Egypt, draw against Russia and only lose 1-0 against Colombia, so it was very, very tight. It's really unfortunate not to get through. So let's have a look at Lithuania first then, and we'll go in reverse alphabetical order today. 34th in the world rankings. They have improved since the start of that World Cup. The league is going sensationally well for them, reputation-wise. It is just one place above the Estonian Premier League. Of course, we've got these weird problems with the Latvian Premier League, although it's not having a huge impact on the country because it's still managing to qualify for European competitions and producing great talent. It's just a bit annoying for them with the reputation, and obviously clubs probably less likely to be able to qualify for domestic European tournaments as well. Anyway, they've got a couple good players as well, Lithuania, and they're both called Brzezinskas. I did check, but they're not brothers. I don't think they're brothers anyway. It doesn't show each other on favoured personnel. One of them plays for Real Madrid, and I did mention at the end of the last part, if some of these players manage to get into the Barcelona and Real Madrid team, there might be an opportunity for them to win a golden ball, because you don't necessarily have to have 195 current ability to win the golden ball on here. It's about playing for a big team, winning Champions Leagues and league titles, and then there's the opportunity to win the Ballon d'Or, or Golden Ball, whatever you want to call it. And he's getting good average ratings, so you never know. The other Brzezinskas plays for Manchester United, moved to £65 million from Dortmund last season. He's also played for Bayern Munich. He's a top quality player. They've got some good players in here, and you can see why they qualified for the World Cup, but you can also see why they didn't get out their group, because it's not quite up to the standard. But Rokas Rimkus, great alliterative name, playing for the champions of Lithuania, Žalgiris, 17 years old. He's got 181 potential. Could be a star to watch out for in today's part 4, and there's not really anyone else around. So yeah, well done for them to get into another World Cup. You can see 2038 they lifted the World Cup. 24 years later, which is a long time, isn't it, to not go to a World Cup, considering they won it as well. 24 years later, they finally made another World Cup. They qualified from the second best placed team, so the second best placed team. European qualification, you can see they did qualify for Euro 2060, but they finished bottom of the group. We'll have a look at that competition in a second. But let's go to Latvia, who have dropped to 101st in the world rankings. Now, this wasn't having an impact on them before. Remember, they were up, they got up to 18th in the world rankings. This is 10 years ago now. But there's been a steady decline ever since. There has been a slight resurrection from 118th, but this is basically where they started. I think all three teams were in sort of the 120s world rankings, and now they've really dropped off. And I don't really understand what has happened. I can't actually edit the reputation of the competition. I can only edit clubs. But that's really, really weird. I just don't understand what's happening. The recent champions, RFS, so they're only a national reputation, secure finances, semi-professional team. They won't even be able to qualify for the Champions League, because the top team probably only qualifies for the Euro Cup, and it's probably that very early rounds of the Euro Cup. Let's have a look here. I know, in fact, they do get to go to the first qualifying round of the Champions League, but invariably they're knocked out. You can see they were knocked out by Partizan, and then they went into the Euro Cup. They were knocked out in the third qualifying round of that by Ludogorets. So it doesn't look good for Latvia, and the only way I could probably change it is if I decided to change the reputation of the teams. But I've always said I can't change the reputation. I could give them another financial boost, make them professional, but I feel like if we're to do that, we should do it for all three nations. I know the other two nations don't need it, but it's not Lithuania and Estonia's fault that this has happened. I'm not really sure it's Latvia's fault this has happened either. I kind of think it's the game. I just don't see why this has happened. It's just one of those things, I suppose. Not every experiment is going to be perfect and go to plan. There's experiments where things will just not happen how we expect it, and this Latvian scenario is something that we didn't expect. But they've still got a couple good players, but they're missing the really good striker that they had. He's probably retired now. The best player plays for Ajax, and he's 25 years old. He's got 56 caps for his country. Moved to Ajax for £3.8 million from Chelsea. You can see they loaned him back to Lithuania many times there. And then the next best player, 20 years old, he does have real potential, and he plays for Flora, as you can see here, on loan from Atlantis in Lithuania. Look at this, it just shows how connected these three nations are. He starts at Riga in Latvia, moves to Atlantis in Lithuania for £2,100, and then goes on loan the last couple of seasons to Flora in Estonia. It just shows how well connected these teams are. The thing with the Latvian Premier League failing, it's not the end of the world, because most of the players just move to Lithuania or Estonia if they're any good, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have much of an impact on the player quality, I don't think, but it will stop the Latvian clubs from having an opportunity to win Champions Leagues and Europa Leagues, whereas Lithuania and Estonia really do have a good chance of producing a team that can win those competitions. Moving on to Estonia then. I've clicked on the Estonian Premier League, but that's currently 8th, as you can see here. This is the only league that is properly working. There's not really anything wrong with it, but Tallinn won it for so many years in a row, but the last 2 years they have failed to win it. That's quite interesting. They've dropped to 3.5-star reputation. They were up to 4 stars before, which is very impressive. And this is Estonia, 54th in the world rankings. As you can see there, this is the players currently in the team. Their best player plays for AC Milan, another really good goalkeeper. How have Estonia got on then in qualification? We know they didn't qualify for the World Cup once again. They've been to one World Cup, of course, and that was 12 years ago now. But with the recent World Cup qualification, they finished 3rd in their group. They're all so close, aren't they? They're so close. European Championship qualification, you can see they did qualify. So they've managed to get to 2 in a row now, but they did finish bottom of the group. So let's have a look at this competition, because we did see Lithuania qualify as well. Portugal won this competition as well, by the way. But let's have a look down. So we saw Lithuania finish bottom of their group with only 1 point, and Estonia finished bottom of their group with 0 points, and Latvia didn't make it at all, of course. Moving on to 2066 then, and starting with Lithuania once again, they have really dropped off lately. They're down to 72nd in the world rankings. So since the last time, they were as high as 31st in 2062. And look at this. What has happened? I have no idea. Possibly we've seen a few of their golden generation players disappear. They've not really had a golden generation since the World Cup, to be honest, and even that wasn't a particularly strong golden generation. Their best player plays for Roma. It's this chap who's got 93 caps for his country, moved to £5.5 million. But yeah, once again, quite a small squad here. Struggling a little bit. I'm guessing they haven't qualified for any more competitions then. Let's have a quick look. No, they did. They qualified for the European Championship in 2064, but they finished bottom of the group once again for the second time in a row. But look, this is really impressive, actually. Although we haven't quite completed the task of the Baltic states dominating world football, what we have done is improve, in particular, Lithuania, and they have become a team that qualifies for every single European Championships. They have qualified for every single competition since 2032, so that's very impressive. That's unlikely to happen in real life, isn't it? Even with the increase in the number of teams that can qualify for this competition. Before the start of this experiment, we'd only seen Latvia qualify, so Lithuania qualifying is this many times in a row is pretty impressive. World Cup qualification, yeah, they didn't qualify for another World Cup, so they've only managed to get to 2. But still, the most successful team by quite a distance on this experiment is Lithuania. Moving across to Latvia then, where, yeah, still having problems, but they have improved immeasurably. They went up to 47th in the world rankings, and they're technically, well, they are, no question about it, they are above Lithuania in the world rankings. That's amazing. So despite the fact Lithuania has an incredible league system, one of the best leagues in Europe now, that's another thing we've also improved, remember, and had success with domestically. Lithuania and Estonia doing particularly well. But despite Latvia not having that system in place, they were still able to send their best players to Lithuania and Estonia, who are then moved on to the likes of Bayern Munich, Arsenal, Juventus. So it's not really the end of the world that the high league has gone downhill so severely. Looking at the team then, they do have some good players. There's a player that plays for Bayern Munich, 27 caps at the age of 21, moved £27 million from Vaprus in Estonia. This is what I was talking about. He just went from Latvia to Estonia right at the start of his career, and it's worked out really well for him. He's got 189 potential. There's also this guy with 182 potential. Probably not going to get there because he's already 24, but still a very good player. Playing for Atlantis in the Lithuanian A-League. That's really, really intriguing as well. This is the chap that went on loan to Flora. I remember him now. So they've got some good players. They've also got someone playing for Arsenal. He's got 92 caps for his country, moved for £21.5 million. He's been around a lot, hasn't he? So they've got some top quality players. Have they been able to qualify though for anything? So look at the European Championship qualification. They didn't qualify there, and although they did win the playoff against Belarus, so they qualified for the 2064 Championship, but they finished bottom of the group. Now remember, they have got through to a quarter-final, which is better than Lithuania have managed in the European Championships. It's quite interesting, really. And I say everything's interesting because it is. I find it just fascinating, all of this stuff. I love messing around with the editor and creating all these parallel universes. You don't really learn anything from it. You know, this isn't what would happen in real life. I'm not even trying to say that. I just find it intriguing, all the things that happen as a result of me messing around with the editor. Let's go to Estonia then. Jump on a plane or jump in the car and go to Estonia. It's not very far. 36th in the world rankings. They've really improved since a few years ago. Down in the 50s, went up to 38th for a while, back down to 63rd, but they're up to 36th. So that's pretty impressive. You can see at the moment who's top. France are top, and Estonia just off that top list there, just below Egypt, as you can see there. So they have improved. They've got probably the best overall well-rounded team. They don't have any superstars like Estonia, like Latvia do, but they've got some really good quality all around the squad, and they do have some potential. 23-year-old, 186 potential, probably won't get to that point as he's already 23. But yeah, this guy's their best player. He's 34, 103 caps. The goalkeeper, they just produce good goalkeepers, and he's been around a long time now. The second best player is a striker, 8 goals for his country. He's moved to Juventus for £11.75 million quite recently. Have they managed to qualify? They haven't qualified for the World Cup, I don't think. Let's have a quick look. No. They were the 5th second best team. So that was, I assume it's like the top 4 that would qualify. But I don't know. European Championships, they did qualify. So they went to another Euros, the 3rd in a row. Estonia, second best team at qualifying for these competitions after Lithuania. And they've managed to get to a quarter-final just like Latvia. But, unfortunately, they did finish 3rd in their group, so failed to qualify from the group stages, just like Lithuania. So the winners were Italy this time around, but let's have a look at the group then. Lithuania, 1 point, and Estonia finished 3rd with 1 point above Switzerland, but Croatia and Holland were just too strong for them. And Latvia, of course, qualified as well, but they got 0 points. So all 3 teams did qualify, but all 3 teams were knocked out in the group stages. It's now the year 2070, and as you can see, Lithuania is still struggling. We saw them improve a little bit since 2066, but then drop off steadily until they were 97th in the world rankings, which is easily their worst placing since the start of this experiment. But they have improved slightly since then. I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm guessing that they have a lack of quality players. Yes, they do. Once again, a small squad. Not really sure why. Maybe it's not showing every single player here, because look, not every position is filled in, but here most positions are filled in. There's no goalkeeper. They've got greyed out players in it. I'm not entirely sure why that is the case. This is their best player, a 32-year-old, 86 caps for his country, plays for Galatasaray nowadays. You can see, look at all those moves around. Really did flip-flop around Europe, moved to Dortmund, then moved to Bayern Munich for £33 million, but was sold to Galatasaray for £32 million the year after. They're going to have to hope for a new golden generation if they ever want to get back to those heady heights of 2038. They do have a good goalkeeper coming through the ranks. In the under-20s, there's not really anyone, and in the under-19s, there's not really anyone either. So they're going to have to hope for a miracle. Let's have a look to see if they have qualified for the last couple competitions though. European Championships, they finished third in their group, so they didn't qualify via that method, and via the playoffs, I don't think they even were in the playoffs. So unfortunately, they, for the first time in over 30 years, they didn't qualify for the European Championships. It just shows how much they've slumped off, and they were fourth in their qualifying group for the World Cup. So it's not been a good time for Lithuania lately. Latvia, they're 76th in the world ranking, so they're similar level to Lithuania at the moment, as you can see there, but they actually are above them still. They improved all the way up to 47th in fact, and they've been quite steady. You know, the last few years they've been between about 40th and 80th. So overall, a bit of an improvement since the start of today's part, but once again, Latvian higher league still struggling reputation-wise. Player-wise, they've got one particularly good player who plays for Atlantis in Lithuania, so they really are attracting quality players. This guy's 28 in his prime, and he's playing his club football in Lithuania, despite the fact it'd be easily a top quality player in the English Premier League. There's also a player playing in China. I think this might be... No, it's actually someone different to the other guy that moved to China. He has been playing for Juventus, Sevilla, Man United, then back to Juventus, and then to China. A bit of a journeyman, this guy, trying to earn lots of money whilst he still can, I guess. In terms of potential players, we've got someone who's got 132 potential. That's not particularly good. It doesn't look good for Latvia in the future. There's hardly anyone in the under-19s team. So have they qualified for anything lately? Let's have a look. So... no, I don't think so. They haven't. They haven't qualified for the 2068 tournament. And World Cup qualification, they finished 5th. They still haven't got to World Cup at all on this experiment. And lastly, Estonia. They're 57th. They have dropped off lately though. Look at this. They're riding high in 32nd with an American in charge. I think that's the first time we've not seen a Baltic state manager. And let's just look at their managers then. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they've just had Estonian managers up until this point. And now they've gone for an American to try and get them, to improve them, I suppose. But it hasn't really worked out for them lately. Their best player does have 179 current ability though. Very good player, playing for Chelsea, 70 caps for Estonia, moved for £36.5 million from Lazio. Looks really... They've definitely got the best squad at the moment out of the three nations. So Estonia, highest in the world rankings, got the best players. It looks good for them for the future. And if there is going to be a team that, you know, challenges Lithuania, it's going to be Estonia who could possibly win the next World Cup out of these three teams. But looking at it, they still didn't manage to qualify for the most recent World Cup. They've only qualified for one. European Championship qualification. They did qualify for that. But they lost in the second round. So at least they got past the group stage. That is a bit of an improvement for them. Let's have a look to see how they got on in the group. So they finished second, ahead of Norway and Israel, but behind Italy. They went into the second round, and that's where they lost 2-0 against a very strong German team. So it's now 2078. This is the last holidaying point in this part 4. Part 5, I'm going to holiday until the year 2102, remember, so keep your eyes out for part 5. But let's focus on 2078 to start with, where you can see Lithuania have certainly improved in recent years. Doing really, really well, up in 11th place in the world rankings. I presume they've had a good World Cup, looking at that. Have they managed to win it? Because that's what happened before, remember. They went into a World Cup around about here, they won it, and then ended up in 9th or 10th place in the world rankings. So let's go and have a look at that straight away, just to see. They didn't win it. Brazil won the 2078 World Cup, beating Holland in the final. Switzerland finished 3rd, but where did Lithuania finish? They must have got to the World Cup. Let's have a look. So they finished top of their group. England, bottom of the group. Imagine what would be going on in England with Lithuania, Paraguay and Ivory Coast finishing above England. England would fancy their chances, even though Lithuania are obviously a good team these days. But they thrashed England 3-0. And, that is a disaster for England, but quite funny at the same time. Let's scroll down. Did any of the other nations get through? Did Estonia get through? I don't think so. I might have not seen that properly, but I don't think they did get through. So second round, Lithuania beat Portugal 2-1 to get through to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. Well done to Lithuania there. Did they get knocked out? Yes, they did. They got knocked out by Italy, who went on to the semi-finals, and they ended up finishing 4th in the competition. But really good stuff from Lithuania to get to another latter stages of the World Cup for the first time in a long, long time. This is what's been happening in the Lithuanian League lately. Of course, we can't see who's been winning it here, but I do believe Zalgiris aren't quite as dominant as they once were, because although we can't see it here, I think if we just go to Atlantis, for example, and look at their schedule, I think they've been the best team, because it shows that they're the best team in this division. You can see they've been getting through to Champions League group stages as well, which is pretty impressive. They did get knocked down to the Euro Cup that year. But yeah, Atlantis seem to be the best team in Lithuania at the moment. 4-star reputation team. That's really impressive stuff from them. Let's just go back and look at Zalgiris. The best team overall. They're also 4-star reputation. They're rich still. European Champions League they've qualified for. Doing really well. I'd presume that if we look at the rules, I reckon there's a few teams that qualify for continental competition now. So continental qualification, the top team qualifies for the group stage of the Champions League. That's all down to this experiment. Improving Lithuania, Estonia and Latvia has allowed the reputation of these, Lithuania and Estonia to go up, meaning one team automatically qualifies for the group stage, the team that finishes top. So I think that's proof that Atlantis have been winning the league, because they did qualify for the Champions League group stage. The second team goes into the best place playoff. The third team then qualifies for the Euro Cup group stage. So there's 5 teams going into this into Europe from Lithuania now. And considering it's a pretty small division of 8 teams, but there's 5 of these, depending on the winner of the cup, going into Europe out of 8. That's pretty amazing. I wonder what happens if one of these B teams gets through, like Zalgiris B or Atlantis B team, who also play in the top division. I wonder if they can have 2 European teams playing in the top division. I don't know. It's quite strange that you can have a B team and an A team in the top division anyway. I'm not sure if that would actually be allowed in real life, but it has happened here. The Estonian Premier League has dropped down a bit, by the way, down to 10th in the reputation. But let's go back to Lithuania then, just to see what squad they have. So their best player plays for Roma. He's a left winger, 174 current ability, moved from Estonia to Italy for £10.5 million. Next best player is this chap, 87 caps, 55 goals for his country, moved from Chelsea to Atletico Madrid for £49 million. So they've got some quality players in here now, once again, after a few barren years. So it's good to see them doing pretty well. Latvia, on the other hand, having problems. They've dropped from 55th in the world rankings to 82nd in recent times. So it's not going particularly well for them. You can see they've still only got half a star reputation in the Latvian league. It's still working fine. It's showing all the winners and everything, but they're just having real problems at getting the reputation of this league up. And I maybe should have fiddled with it a bit more. I just decided not to. I just let it naturally progress and see if it would turn around, but it's not happened. Have they managed to qualify for anything recently though? European Championships, they finished third in the group, and then they lost in the playoff stages to qualify. So unfortunately they didn't qualify for another Euros. They haven't qualified for 14 years now. In the World Cup qualification they finished fourth again. I think it's over for Latvia. I just can't see them turning the corner now without me improving them more. And I don't think I will do that in this experiment. I know there's probably people from Latvia a little bit upset that your nation has done the worst out of the three teams. There could be a miraculous turnaround, you never know, but it doesn't look positive looking at this team, does it? They're relying on a few young players here. I don't know why the team's so small. This is the best player and he's only 20 years old. But there is a little bit of hope for the future with him. Perhaps he can improve and hold the team together. There's also a very good 18-year-old with 173 potential in the under-21 squad, and decent 17-year-old left-back, 151 potential. So there are a few players that could improve the team in the future, but it's just so small. I think one of the problems could be that because these players are moving to Estonia and Latvia at a young age, they might end up playing for Lithuania and Estonia after a few years if they're good enough, because they'll just transfer their nationality across. That could be a problem for Estonia, and might be why they've got such small teams. If we look at the top team in Latvia, their best player only has 106 current ability. But there are youngsters here with potential who might end up, but in fact he's Albanian, so they've got quite a few foreign players in here as well, in fact. So a lot of their the real potential players are probably moving to Estonia and Lithuania at a young age, and they might not end up playing for Latvia in the end. Estonia, 45th in the world rankings. They're doing alright actually. They did drop off all the way down to 85th for a while. So that's sort of middle of the road team. Still 3.5 star reputation league, as you can see here. It's the only league that has really worked properly. We saw Levadia dominating for many years after Tallinn dominated for many years, and then Vaprus. But Tallinn have just dropped off. Quite strange really. Down to 3-star national reputation team. Whereas Levadia are up to 3.5 star reputation team, qualifying for the Champions League every year. Vaprus have won the most recent league title, their 3.5 star reputation team as well. If we look at the rules, we can see the top team qualifies for the Champions League group stage, and there's also 5 teams qualifying for Europe here. Only 2 going into Champions League, but once again 5 teams possibly qualifying out of 10 in this league. So that's really good for Estonian football. Best players in the Estonia squad, there's this guy. He plays for Levadia, Karol Novikov. So they seem to be staying in Estonia, a lot of the good players. They're not moving abroad. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I think it's kind of good for solidarity between certain players if you've got lots of players playing for the same squad. But at the same time, if they're good enough, then they'll be going to the top teams in England, Spain, Italy, Germany, for example. Let's look at qualification then. So they didn't manage to qualify for a second World Cup in a row, unfortunately, so they've still only qualified for the 2. I did notice on the Excel spreadsheet that I'd not actually given them points for these 2 World Cups, which I've rectified. European qualification, they finished 3rd. So did they get through the playoffs? They didn't. They lost against Lithuania, who obviously went on to the 2076 European Championships in their place. So that's there is a bit of a rivalry developing, isn't there? Spain won the most recent European Championships, as you can see there, and Lithuania, where did they finish? So they finished bottom of their group, unfortunately, but they did well at the recent World Cup, so it doesn't really matter too much. Champions League wise then, I don't think we're ever going to see a Lithuanian or Estonian winner, because it's just too much of an ask to compete with these big boys. They're getting through to Champions Leagues, they're getting into the group stages of course, but to actually go on and win it is a really, really big ask. Looking at the Euro Cup, I was thinking or hoping that we would get a winner, but we haven't done so yet, have we? If I just go down, we did see 2 runners-up, and we did actually see Suduva be runners-up to Lazio in 2066, and before that, of course, we did see Zalgiris be runners-up, and there was Tallinn as well. But since then, We've not... Oh, Levadia, in fact, were runners-up to Liverpool as well, but we've not managed to see a winner just yet. Maybe in the next 24 years, before the end of the next experiment, perhaps we will see a winner. I really hope so. I have just realised that I forgot to check the Confederations Cup when Lithuania managed to win the World Cup, of course. Unfortunately, they didn't actually manage to win the Confederations Cup. If I just go back, I'm just curious to see how they got on at the next tournament. So it would have been the 2041 competition, I'm guessing. If we just look at the groups. Oh, they're not in this one. So why weren't they at this Confederations Cup, considering they'd won the World Cup in 2038? Is it because it's 3 years after? But that seems a bit unfair, doesn't it? That they didn't get to the Confederations Cup, considering they actually won a World Cup. Have we seen a Golden Ball winner from our players? So the last time we checked was 2058. I kind of doubt it. But you never know. They might have featured in the top 3. I'm just looking at the winner as I scroll up. But you might spot a second or third place player. Don't think so though. Which is a shame. We've seen a Paraguayan winner, Czech Republic winner, Portugal have heavily won this competition, and Russia most recently. These are the top teams in the world by reputation, as you can see here. Are there any Lithuanian teams listed? We should see a couple 4-star teams, because we saw a couple 4-star teams. There's a Lithuanian team, Atlantis, 4 stars. So they're doing pretty well. In terms of finances, we can look at the leagues that we've loaded. So Estonia, £98 million for Levadia. That's their turn. These are big turnovers, considering where these clubs started off. The Latvian teams are all the way down here, as you can see. So the best Latvian team is this Ventspils, 23rd on the list, £650,000. It's just dominated by Estonian and Lithuanian teams, as you would expect. And these are the top teams, the top leagues in the world. So Lithuanian one is up there with Holland. It's above Turkish Superliga. Estonian Premier League's up there as well, above the Russian Premier League and the Belgian Premier League. So they're doing really, really well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed part 4 of this experiment. Part 5 will be out tomorrow, and I'm going to holiday until the year 2102, and we'll see which nation turns out as winners. We do just need to do the Excel spreadsheet lastly. I think this is right, but I will double check by the end of part 5 just to make sure everything is 100% accurate. But I believe this is correct. I didn't check the International League. I don't think not any of these nations have won the International League yet, but once again I will check at the end of part 5. No Europa League winners or Champions League winners or Golden Ball winners yet, or World Player of the Year winners, anything like that. I haven't actually checked World Player of the Year, but I presume it's the same as the World Golden Ball. So the points at the end of part 4: Lithuania on 33, Estonia on 15, and Latvia still on 8. Doesn't look good for Latvia unless they can somehow produce a sudden golden generation and go on and win a World Cup. Yeah, it looks like Lithuania are going to win this. But remember, it was all about collectively. Can they dominate the world? They haven't so far. They've definitely improved. Estonia and Lithuania seem to qualify for the majority of European Championships. Lithuania have done well at the World Cup. But yeah, Latvia are letting the team down at the moment. Let's hope they can improve in the last part. Anyway, until next time, enjoy FM18, and I'll see you very soon.